Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight, so I hope everything is going well for you today.
It is. I got to ask you a question. What do you think would happen if a Republican said out loud that either a candidate or the president of another party should be shot, said those words out loud? What do you think would happen?
Well, in the case like of Stacey Plaskett, is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, well, she said it. Here's what she said.
Yeah, I know she did. I think that they, well, my thing is any committee they're on, which she is, she should step down from right away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know, if I as a citizen sat there and said, I think so-and-so ought to be shot.
I think you might have somebody knocking on your door. Like the Secret
I
Service.
think they kicked down the door because that is a threat.
That's right.
But what that was a different kind of threat. It was a call to action. It was a signal for the troops to get Trump, because here's what's going on. They don't want Trump to get back in office for any reason at all. And they know he's got goods on him. And so the easiest way to defuse Trump is to eliminate him literally. Now, DeSantis and any other Republican candidate ought to be looking at that or listening to that threat. And where are the spineless Republicans? Because nobody said a damn thing, but if a Republican did it, the Democrats would be all over it. So we've got a problem in our own party, and that is we don't stick up for our fellow comrades, let alone our own party. And if we can't do that, then the message has been heard. It's out there. And there's a whack job going, okay, I've got instructions now. Here's what I got to do.
Well,
DeSantis,
she said this on a Sunday morning program, and they didn't even stop and correct her or clarify anything. They didn't say, well, yeah, I'm sure that was a slip of your tongue, or of course it's a slip. They didn't do that. She just kept going, and they didn't point it out. But she said it. If it happened in reverse, if a Republican said those words, there would have been an outcry. The New York Times.
Hell to pay.
There would have been the New York Times stories about it. There would have been calls for removal. The whole ball of wax. But when the Democrat says it, she's only a delegate. No, she is. She's on the committees. She participates. She may be a delegate, but that's technically a term. She can't vote, But other than that, she can participate and influence. And she has influence, and she shouldn't have said it. Here's what she said in case you missed it. Listen very carefully.
Having Trump not only have had the codes, but now having the classified information for Americans and being able to put that out and share it in his resort with anyone and everyone who comes through should be terrifying to all Americans, and he needs to be stopped.
He needs to be shot. Stopped.
That was planned, let me tell you right now, and even if it wasn't, let's say it was it was a Freudian slip. In a Freudian slip, that's what you're truly thinking. You correct yourself from saying what you really meant to say. She meant it. She did say it. It wasn't just a part of a word or kind of unclear. It was very clear, very prominent. She knows it, and I know it. She's a liar.
She has responsibilities in her position. One of the responsibilities is to be careful about what you say at all times. You represent an area. You are a delegate or you are a representative. You have responsibilities. That is the most irresponsible, and like I think you may have said, it was planned, I think. I think she said it intentionally, too.
I think
that was at the top of her mind, and that's what came out.
Yeah, and I think that you talked about responsibility. Now let's go to the Republican side of the fence. What do we hear? Crickets.
Oh.
Okay, well, guess what? It is your responsibility, Congress, to bounce her on her butt and hold her accountable and let the Democrats know that they can't do this anymore. And let's take it a step further, because I think it was a rally cry to put a target on his head. which we've known they were going to do all along. And I think the party, the entire Democrat Party, ought to be held accountable if that happened.
But there were two standards in this country of ours now, two complete standards. I mean, if a Republican did it, there would be cries for him being tossed from government, and there would be censure and all this. It would be terrible, and it would be continuous. You wouldn't be able to forget about it. But because she says it, it's not a big deal. It was a slip of her tongue. They're making excuses for her from the get-go. The fact that she said it is amazing. Go ahead.
But I was going to say, the Democratic voting public, the one that believes everything that they're told, they're going, well, but I don't like Trump, and I don't like your Republican ways, so I'm going to let it slide. Well, if you let it slide, that says something about you. When you talk about your democracy and everything, I'm not saying don't believe in what you believe, but do the right thing, because this is wrong. This is wrong.
I'm going to play it for you again. I want you to hear this one more time. This is somebody who sits in Congress and has influence.
Having Trump not only have had the codes, but now having the classified information for Americans and being able to put that out and share it in his resort with anyone and everyone who comes through should be terrifying to all Americans, and he needs to be stopped.
Unbelievable. But another thing, what she's saying is a lie.
Yes.
What she's saying about the classified documents, sharing it with other people, is a lie.
Well, she's talking about the codes and everything. Well, let's explore this one. But the simple fact is, none of the investigations or any of that has ever mentioned codes or sharing stuff like that. And this audio tape of top secret classified documents that he was sharing, and what you hear on the tape is newspapers and magazines. And unless you got proof otherwise, I believe that's what it was, and that's what it is. And what he said was very ambiguous, was not what they're claiming. But let's talk about secrets of the nation. Obama was caught saying back when he was in office, if we can fool the people one more time, we can give away, because I think we should share with all of our enemies in foreign states all of our secrets and technology. That is what
it is obvious
from the words of Obama.
It is obvious to so many good people that certain people who have been revered by others in this country are not really on our side. Let's just leave it like that. They're not really patriots. They haven't been from the get-go, and they aren't right now. I think you and I were talking, the guy who's really pulling the strings right now probably is Barack Hussein Obama.
Well, you're damn right.
From his house.
Yeah, and you know what? I wouldn't doubt that he kind of encouraged what was said too. We can't do it ourselves, but if somehow we put the word out, maybe some group out there will go ahead and do it for us, because if enough of them try, they might get through, because they don't want Trump to win because of what he really does have and what he really will do. And Trump has said what he will do. If DeSantis, has any brain at all, he's got to realize he's in sights, because if Trump is gone, he's the next man up, and they're going to take him too. They're not going to let him win. They're going to stop any Republican by any means before 2024, and that was evident from that little comment. He should be. Whatever she said after that.
I don't know if you can hear this or not, but there's a slight. It sounds like an echo in the background or harmonics of some kind. I think that is our transmission line today. And if you are listening and you hear that, we apologize. We have no control over that, but it's there.
Well, I also have major construction going on outside, which not for my building, but they're redoing the sidewalk, so they got to tear them up. And
it's
do
just one of
everything.
those days, folks. But we wanted to let you know that it's not something that we're doing intentionally here at the studio. Another interesting thing happened yesterday. I don't know if you saw this or not, but President Trump sat down for an interview with Bret Baier on Fox News, of all places, And the first thing I thought was, what is he doing? He's walking into the lion's den. That's not the Fox News that used to be supportive of him for so many years. This is a different Fox News, and you're walking right into the lion's den. But I'm totally convinced that this man is fearless of these people. He knows where he's going. He knows what he's saying. He said, and Bret Baier, by the way, is no friend of the Trumps. He is not a friend. He is, in my opinion, he's a guy who showed his true colors during the 2020 election, and he hasn't really changed. He knows where he gets his millions of dollars in salary. He knows where he gets the money to afford his beautiful homes and to keep himself a lifestyle that he enjoys living. And so, I mean, he if they told him at Fox to do something, he would do it dutifully because he's a loyal employee and a supporter of the upper level management. So he sat down anyway with. And Trump was unbelievably good last night. Trump was amazing last night. He was definitely on his game, and nothing bothered him. And but they were talking about the classified documents. And first, I want to play this cut here. This is not from Trump. This is not from last night. This is Mike Pence talking to David Muir from ABC about classified documents. I play this only as a reminder. Listen.
You take any classified documents with you from the White House?
I did not.
Do you see any reason for anyone to take classified documents with them leaving the White House?
Well, there'd be no reason to have classified documents, particularly if they were in an unprotected area.
That's Mike Pence, right? He's talking to David Muir, and he's saying, no, I did not take him. So this is what happened last night on the interview with Bret Baier, President Trump and Bret Baier. Listen.
Your Vice President Mike Pence says he's, quote, deeply troubled by what's in the indictment. And he says, quote, the indictment contains serious charges and I cannot defend what's alleged.
Mike Pence had documents that were classified.
And he turned them over.
No, he didn't turn them over. He got caught. His lawyers found some documents and then he turned them over. Why did he have them? He shouldn't be saying that because he had classified documents. And immediately they said, oh, that's okay. And I suppose it's going to be okay with Biden, too, even though he has them in Chinatown, even though he has them in Delaware, and probably 100 times more than I have.
So you're not worried about this case?
Based on the law, zero. Presidential Records Act, plus the Clinton case, which was won by Clinton as president because he took tapes of leaders in his socks. Is zero.
Okay.
Zero. And every good lawyer has said it, and you've seen that. Every good lawyer has said that.
Obviously, there are others who push back. And
this was a weaponization of politics. This was a weaponization of the White House. This was a horrible thing. A candidate that's leading, I'm leading Biden by a lot, they go out and they weaponize. This is a horrible thing that was done.
It was a confrontational type interview. It really was. And it was the kind of interview that you would expect from a CNN or an MSNBC, but not from a Fox or even a Bret Baier of 4 years ago. And I'm not saying that they had to throw softballs at President Trump, but it was a gotcha type interview. And he really wanted to make things as uncomfortable for President Trump as he could. And fortunately, President Trump, I think, is used to this by now.
Oh, yeah. He can take a softball. He can take a hard ball. But they were throwing the hard balls, and they were definitely trying to, coach the outcome of it so that they, no matter what Trump did and how he did it, they could take it and
twist
it the way, twist it. And that's how these interviews work with the media. I mean, the real fight, just like the Ukraine war is, and just like this presidential election, it is determined by what the media tells you is happening. That's how it's being played out. So you're not getting the real story. You're not getting the truth. That's obvious. Pence, he is guilty. Trump is not guilty. And, Trump mentioned all the different powers that he has, to declassify. But the documents that they're talking about, they weren't, It's made up. It's thin air, but they're doing it.
You only heard Vice President Pence make his comment to David Muir. I wish you could see his expression. It was one of confidence. It was one of I wouldn't think of doing such a thing, And yet he knew when he said that he was lying. He knew he was lying. This is a guy who talks about being a born-again Christian, a different type of person, evangelical. He's been called an evangelical. But I think you'd find, if you could really look at this guy deep down inside, he's anything but. He's kind of sinister. And that's the worst kind of guy. The kind of guy who wears the mantle and the cloak of holiness and cleanliness, and deep down inside, he's disgustingly vile. That's what I feel about this guy. A guy who can lie so easily. He can roll off his tongue, and he can look into the camera and say with such confidence that he didn't take the documents. When the fact of the matter is, he knew he had the documents in his house. And when President Trump said no, he didn't not take the documents. He just got caught.
Yeah, which is true. He got caught. Trump had nothing to worry about. The only thing Trump had to worry about, he even talked about Clinton, who had tapes in his socks, the recording tapes in his socks. Trump walked out knowingly with what he had, but what he had, and the things of importance, were the goods on the deep state. That's what I truly believe he had. Every document that they're building this case based on, extremities, or extremes. Where they're going, look at all these boxes here. He put them on the stage, had them in the bathroom. He put them everywhere. They got them on the front and back porch, in case you didn't know.
And Greg Kelly the other night said, well, let's look at what he really supposedly took. The documents that he really took, and he held up a box, Greg Kelly did, and in the box there were like 3 pieces of paper. He said, that's the classified documents they found. You see boxes on the stages in Mar-a-Lago. You see stuff strewn on the floor. That's nothing. That's smoke and mirrors.
And even you heard Stacey talking about the nuclear codes, and he was sharing this with everybody. Let's make this perfectly clear. The Democrats did in the election, talking about the football and everything. There are no codes in there. There's no paperwork of codes. There is no little mechanical device where you sit there and he launches from the briefcase. It is show. Yeah, there might be paperwork in there and authenticating words, but by the time it's done, and I don't even think there's that. Yeah. By the time it's done, it's basically him saying, hey, guys, fire the nukes. That's what it is. It's a verbalization. And
he didn't take codes. And by the way, let's go back to
it's very symbolic what that case is.
Let's go back to the very key issue. Did he have the right to take anything?
Yes.
And the answer is yes, he did. And everybody, including mainstream media, keeps ignoring the fact that he was the president of the United States of America, and with that comes the power to classify and declassify documents. And that's exactly what he did. He did not break any laws. He did what was legal.
Yeah. Technically, everything in that White House is classified. Yeah. Even the socks in your feet and the underwear in your body. Did you get those cleared to go too? I mean, come on. They're being, you're going, Bill, that's silly. Well, it's just as silly as what they're doing right now. But unfortunately, you, the public, believes what they're telling you, which is a lie.
It's sad because they're really selling it. They're selling it to you in a very soft and almost subliminal way. They're trying to make it sound like everybody knows that it was classified. Everybody knows he shouldn't have had those documents. This is how the mainstream media is trying to make you believe that he broke the law, when in reality, the fact of the matter is, the only truth here is that he had the right as president to classify and declassify in an instant without putting it on paper, without signing any documents. He had the right to declassify. Not only that, they're making it sound like he didn't have approval to take the documents and that were classified. The president of the United States does not need approval from any other human being in this country to take classified documents. He's the president. That's part of his job. He can do that. They try to make it sound like, well, he should have talked to the National Archivist. Bull. Nonsense. The National Archivist has no control over the President of the United States. As a matter of fact, the President of the United States probably can remove the National Archivist at his will, because most people in government work at the will and the will of the President. And, I'm just saying that we're being told this lie. We're being spoon-fed this narrative that, oh, President Trump took documents that he shouldn't have had, and he had them on his stage in Mar-a-Lago, in his bathroom in Mar-a-Lago. This is the mainstream media trying to poison the well, and they're doing a pretty damn good job. You know, the other thing is this. With every interview that President Trump does, with every gotcha interview like we just talked about, he gets stronger, and it's driving the left nuts.
Well, and which is why Stacey probably did what she did yesterday, because the latest polls, Trump against Biden, with all the crap that they've thrown at him, not only has he held his lead against Biden, he is graining. Now that's a true Freudian slip, but he is gaining on just about every level against Biden.
Yep.
And this guy, the people, well, that's the other thing in the poll. They want the FBI to release the Biden, the documents on bribery, and the public wants to see it. Biden and the entire family is in trouble, including James Biden, who apparently was brokering deals for the Biden family that's been left out of it. And boy, that would be fun to unpack that suitcase and find out how much more, because I understand there's a lot more stuff that's boiling to the surface, and they're trying to sit there, all of them together, keep their foot on that lid so it doesn't, or on that pot so the lid doesn't boil off. Because
if President Trump had done half the things that President Biden has been accused of, they would have drawn and quartered him already. He has been under a magnifying glass since he came down the escalator and announced his presidency. He has been a target since that date. The FBI was investigating him. It was breaking the law in doing so, but it was doing it behind the scenes. It was spying on a candidate for the presidency and then a future president. I mean, the things that have happened to President Trump versus the things that they're doing to protect President Biden is just mind-boggling. It's just, for anybody looking on, it's like, how can they protect this thief, this crooked thief, this traitor, and go after this patriot?
Anything that they've accused Trump of in documents, they have not provided evidence. Oh, well, we have pictures here of boxes that were staged, and that we know because we know the type of person Trump is. And that didn't happen, and it started from a handful of documents that were found. All of a sudden, boxes and boxes but the tapes were shut off when they were bringing stuff in, but they don't have anything. So now, because I think what they're looking for is not top secret classified documents, it's evidence against the deep state. But they keep going after him, and now they're doing the thing, well, we have a tape, and he's holding these documents, which is paper shaking, which he goes, they were newspaper articles and magazines with stories of what I'm talking about, of all this crap that's going on. But they say, well, we got the tape. Well, really? Play it. Have you heard the tape anywhere?
No, I think that they are they're desperate right now. The left is. They're in a situation that they just never anticipated. They figured, well, we'll indict Trump in New York, and that'll knock his polls down, and it didn't. It made it stronger. Then they indicted him again in Florida, and that made him stronger. And the polls continue to rise for Trump. Right now, if the election took place today, if it happened today, President Trump would win in a landslide. Of course, that's with an honest election taking place, which I still think is not going to happen in the country we're living in right now. I think the environment is such that they've stolen it before. And I'm not just talking about 2020. I think you probably would find that they've had some influence on elections for decades, and this is nothing new. As a matter of fact, the election that Trump won was the exception and not the rule. Catherine Herridge was talking about the Trump lawyers and their plans to make a defense for President Trump. Here's what she had to say.
Who's going to represent the former president? So much chaos inside of his legal team.
Well, they haven't ruled out adding even more lawyers, especially down in Florida, as they address this indictment in that state. What I learned in my conversations over the weekend with sources close to his legal team is that as a threshold issue, they're likely anticipating some limited discovery to kind of get under the hood of the special counsel's case and the strength of the evidence. And then the other two top-tier targets are a motion to dismiss based on allegations of prosecutorial misconduct. You're familiar with that through your own reporting. And then the second is to get excluded these notes from Evan Corcoran, the former defense attorney, which are at the heart of this obstruction case. And the thing that I learned this weekend, which was new to me, is that these notes are more than 40 pages in length. So I think it is fair to say in this indictment, we're seeing a snapshot of those conversations and not quite the full picture.
She is probably one of the finest reporters in Washington. She has not been compromised. She wasn't compromised at Fox, and she hasn't been compromised, amazingly, at CBS. She just continues to do honest journalism, and she really gets the story. She finds out the details.
That's good.
She also talked with a former Trump attorney about prosecutorial misconduct. Listen.
The Trump attorneys have raised questions about prosecutorial misconduct in this case. What did you witness?
I witnessed a lot of misconduct.
What did that look like?
So it's been reported, I went before the grand jury myself. I was not subpoenaed. I went in voluntarily as in the place of a custodian of records. And I was really stunned by what I saw in the grand jury room by the conduct of the prosecutors. They made many attempts to try to get at privileged communications. They would ask me about conversations with my client. They would make improper references to the jury, trying to mislead them about that. At one point, it got to the level where they're asking me this again, and then they'll turn to the grand jury and they say, "So you're refusing to provide this information?" No, I'm not refusing to provide. The ethical rules prohibit me. Even if the answer to this question is helpful, I'm not allowed to give it. And I turned to the jury and I said, and she knows it. She knows that it's an improper question. It's an improper inference. That then led to an exchange where she tried saying, well, the privilege has exceptions. It could be waived, yes. Well, if the president's so cooperative, why won't he waive privilege and allow you to tell the grand jury about his conversations?
Why does that cross a legal red line?
Well, that crosses a major red line as far as implying guilt to a jury based on the invocation of a constitutional right. It's the kind of thing that if that had happened in a trial court, the judge would have immediately stopped everything, probably declared a mistrial. And it's the kind of thing that, quite frankly, an attorney, a prosecuting attorney who willfully does that type of thing would potentially face discipline. And I think that they probably will when this case comes out.
Implying guilt by simply using a constitutional right, saying, I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to not self-incriminate myself. And by doing that, the prosecution turns around and says, see, he said he would plead the Fifth, which, of course, is an admission of guilt, which is not an admission of guilt. No,
it's not. And but you know what? That's happening all the time. Everything that's going on in court, out of court, media reporting is all twisted to, make the assumption of guilt.
Yeah.
You know what happens when you assume,
yeah,
and that's
you
what's
make
going
an ass
on.
of you and me, right?
I know. I learned that in court, actually, so I know all about that. You never assume.
Bill Barr is not a friend of Trump's.
Oh, no.
He was on, he's promoting a book. And by the way, President Trump mentioned Barr and other people by name in the interview with Bret Baier last night. And Trump said these guys, they all are all out trying to make money. He says Bill Barr, a weak guy, very weak guy. This is how Trump, but he gets out there and he says nasty things while he's on a book tour, so that he will make more money and create more sales for his book, and that's that's why he's doing the things he's doing. He says they all have a plan, a scheme. Anyway, Barr said this on, I think it was Face the Nation.
Do you believe he lied to the Justice Department?
Do I personally believe it? Yes, I do.
And do you believe that he continues to claim that he has all these privileges and rights under the Presidential Records Act? Is he mischaracterizing the act?
Absolutely. The legal theory by which he gets to take battle plans and sensitive national security information as his personal papers is absurd. It's just as wacky as the legal doctrine they came up with for having the vice president unilaterally determine who won the election. The whole purpose of the statute, the Presidential Records Act, was to stop presidents from taking official documents out of the White House. It was passed after Watergate. That's the whole purpose of it. And therefore, it restricted what a president can take. It says it's purely private, that had nothing to do with the deliberations of government policy. Obviously, these documents are not purely private. It's obvious. And they're not even now arguing that it's purely private. What they're saying is the president just has sweeping discretion to say they are, even though they squarely don't fall within the definition. It's an absurd argument.
Unbelievable. This guy knows better. Yeah. He knows better, and he lies anyway. I just read this morning, I haven't got the story in front of me, that he and Christopher Wray were actively trying to destroy Trump while they were in their positions of power, while
Absolutely.
He was the Attorney General, and Christopher Wray obviously still is the FBI director.
Yeah. He's protecting Biden so much, too.
The term deep state, think about the two words. It's not the state, it's the deep state. It means that it's way down under the surface, way down under. And it has been around, as other administrations on the surface change. The deep state is a steady constant. It is there all the time, and it controls people with power and money. And that guy you just heard, Bill Barr, he's part of it. I don't care what anybody says. For these people to turn around, let me ask you a question. I know you pretty well, Bill.
All right.
If you were in a position with President Trump, no matter what, if he gave you the Attorney General position, pretty powerful position, and then after, he kept you, by the way, he kept Bill Barr right to the very end.
Right.
Would you turn around and start shivving the guy who gave you the opportunity? That says a lot about. Doesn't that say a lot about the person who's doing the shivving?
Yeah, yeah, it does. Now, I will say, if there was something that I absolutely knew was wrong, then yeah, I would come forward with it. But Barr is making stuff up as he goes and changing his story.
You should be loyal to a certain extent. Some people said, why didn't you make the right decisions in your first administration when you choose people? He didn't know anybody.
Hey, we all thought William Barr was a pretty good guy, and then all of a sudden, his true colors shine through because he was, he's a turncoat is what he was. And I don't even think he's a turncoat.
Hey,
he was in disguise.
Donald Trump
was there all along.
Donald Trump was the epitome of business people in our country. Very successful, smart businessman. But when it came to being a politician, he was a rube. He was inexperienced, a novice. So he comes down to Washington, and he has to rely on the advice of key people who know the landscape, who know the territory. And these people, I think, were the real liars. They knew who they were bringing into his administration. I mean, Mike Pompeo, I would have thought he would be a loyal supporter of the president to the very end. And instead, like all the others, not all the others, but a lot of the others, he is enjoying dancing on the what he thinks is the grave of the president. It isn't, by the way. President Trump is an amazing fighter. he just takes a licking and keeps on ticking, as they would say. As far as people in the future, they asked him on the interview last night. Brett Baer said, well, how do you know you're not going to hire the same type of people in the second administration? He said, I know who I'm going to hire now. I know who the good guys are now.
See, that's a hard thing. When you become president, you can't replace everybody. There's so many people in appointed positions, permanent positions, so to speak. And so you've got to sit there and go, what do I need? But those people, you might change the people that you need and you got the right ones, but it's the ones under them or beside them that you have to watch out for, because you can't just clean house in government, because you've got to have the people that run it, the day-to-day people, and they go on from administration to administration. And the Democrats have had a good run at putting those people into positions and places. So they can go, well, we didn't win this election. Hey, help us out for the next one. So then they go, oh, okay, yeah, that's the person to help me out. I'm going to undermine this person. And that's what happened to Trump. He thought that William Barr was a good guy, and he kept him to the end because Barr didn't really show his true colors. We thought he was going to help out with all the election stuff.
And he did nothing.
He did nothing.
And do you remember sitting at the election, during the election period, after the election was over, you were sure that a loyalist like Bill Barr was going to stand side by side with his president and challenge the election, and he did nothing. He was as useful as mammary glands on a bull.
Well, I can tell you this. Does he know what really happened? Yeah, he does. Is he going to, tell the truth?
Never.
And defend democracy? No, he's not, because his bread is buttered by the deep state.
Yep.
So that's who he's loyal to, and they're going to protect their own, and he's a part of it. Now we know it, but we got to get Trump back in. And I think if you had an election today, he would win by a landslide. I think he'd win by a bigger landslide tomorrow. But the steal is still in place.
Yes.
And that's the problem.
They came out with an article, I think it's called the Halderman Report. You probably saw it. And it said the machines can be tampered with.
Yeah.
This is 2.5 years later, right? It's almost like a throwaway story on the press. The Halderman report was released, and, I guess the machines can be tampered with during and after the elections.
And unfortunately, though, now I believe, all the documents, the ballots that go into it, I think that those, talking about getting rid of things, I think all the evidence to what really happened in the election is now gone.
Bill, and getting back to the Republicans, what you said before, where the hell are they? Why? I'm tired of these Republican committee members and stuff saying, well, we're going to have a meeting on Monday. Next Thursday, we're going to talk to them. There isn't an urgency on the part of the Republican Party. An urgency. The building is burning down. Somebody get some water. It's not somebody think about getting some water. It's not somebody discussing who will go and get the water. It's not discussing who will punish the pyromaniac that lit the fire. No. Go get the water. The building's burning down now. And that's the problem we have right now with the Republican Party. They're good at committees. They're good at interviewing. Are the cameras on? The mics are working?
Yeah.
Okay, I got some great stuff to say here. It's going to make the news tonight, and everybody's going to use the clips on their shows. The fact of the matter is, nobody is out putting the damn fire out. So we have a situation right now where our president, and I talk about our president being Donald Trump, because I think he won in 2020. I do believe that we have a guy in office right now who stole the position, and he's intentionally damaging our country. We have a traitor destroying our borders who who has already given away stuff. Do you know what happened yesterday? Before I forget this, I don't know whether I have the clip, but I got to play this. This is what happened. I want you to listen very carefully to this clip.
All right.
This is Tony Blinken.
On Taiwan, I reiterated the long-standing U.S. One China policy. That policy has not changed. It's guided by the Taiwan Relations Act, the 3 joint communiques, the 6 assurances. We do not support Taiwan independence. We remain opposed to any unilateral changes to the status quo by either side. We continue to expect the peaceful resolution of cross-strait differences.
Is that not a green light for China to go in and invade Taiwan?
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. Do not stop it, go, whatever. You
It's
just
yours.
go right ahead. It's yours.
You can have it. We're not going to defend it. Taiwanese people, they got to be pissed right now when the news just came in, because we're not going to lift a finger. We're not going to do a damn thing. But okay, so, their independence,
What did we tell our other allies, too, in the world? What did we tell our other allies around the world? We can't be counted on. We can't be trusted. For years, we said we were supporting Taiwanese independence. And all of a sudden, in one day, Tony Blinken, by the way, goes to China. He bends over backwards, and I won't say anything else. But the fact of the matter is, he essentially prostrates himself on the floor in front of Xi. And whatever you want, sir, we'll do it. And he goes out and he tells the world, we don't favor Taiwanese independence. Oh, my God. Anybody who's paying attention knows we've supported that for years.
Okay, but we don't favor Taiwanese independence. Then what the hell are we doing in the Ukraine?
Well, hey, listen, we do favor selling weapons and making money. And that's what they're doing. They want to break as many of our toys so they can sell more of them to the Ukraine army, Yeah.
And we want to give away our secrets, too, because
I take
Obama
that back.
said that.
I take that back. We don't sell it because we're giving our money to the Ukraine. We're making the American people pay for the equipment.
Yeah, well, they give it away. We pay for it, and we should be proud of that because we're supporting their independence and democracy. But the hell with Taiwan, because we're not getting anything out of them.
But this is the kind of administration we have right now. Everything that is normally up in this administration is down. Everything that is right is now left. The people who are running our government right now are the antithesis of American patriots. They are absolutely the worst. They wear the suits. They look into the camera and have all the outward appearances of being diplomatic and being smart and articulate. But the fact of the matter is, like President Trump said yesterday, this is a dumb administration. These are a bunch of numbskulls who are running our administration.
Well, they're dumb or it's actually planned, and I say it's planned. There's a much deeper, darker, bigger picture of what's going on, but it's deep and sinister, and you know it, and I know it, and all these pieces. You need to step back and get a clear picture of everything that's going on, and maybe the puzzle will go together before your eyes, and you'll see what's really happening.
John Fetterman was speaking with President Biden over the weekend. Fetterman got up in front of the microphone, which I thought was very brave of him. And I want you to pay close attention to what he says. And then, if you would you translate it for me afterwards? Listen.
And now I'm standing next to the president again, next to a collapsed bridge here. And he is here to commit to work with the governor and the delegation to make sure that we get this fixed quick, fast as well, too. This is a president that is committed to infrastructure. Yeah, and then on top of that, the dual kind of a law of the inflation bill that is going to make sure that there's going to be bridges all across like this, all across America getting rebuilt.
So somebody took that dialogue and they actually put some music behind it. And
oh boy, this is going to be fun because
listen.
Next to a collapsed bridge here, and he is here to commit to work with the governor and the delegation to make sure that we get this fixed quick, fast as well, too. This is a president that is committed to infrastructure. Yeah, and then on top of that, the dual kind of law of the inflation bill that is going to make sure that there's going to be bridges all across like this, all across America getting rebuilt.
Go home, folks. Yeah, I love delegation.
Delegation and infrastructure, whatever.
Infrastructure, yeah. I'm sitting there going, delegate, dance to the music.
He's God bless him. He's had a stroke. We know that, and that's it. It is not fair that he be judged as a normal person because he's had brain damage, and he shouldn't be standing up in front of a group of people. But that being said, he allowed himself to be elected the senator from the state of Pennsylvania after the stroke, and he lied to the people constantly, saying that he was okay and he was clear-headed.
Well, he knew damn well he wasn't good.
Yeah, and his wife
he's still not.
And his wife pushed him into that position. If a wife loved her husband and the guy was so damaged, you would have thought that she would have said, "Look at honey, we're going to spend some time getting you better, and you're not going to be put under the limelight and the spotlight, and we're not going to put you in a position that puts more stress on you." But she didn't do that. She pushed him into the light, and now he is going up in front of the audiences and standing next to. Of course, I think Joe understood what he was saying. That's I was watching the video, and Joe was looking over at him while he was trying to put the sentence together, and it looked as if Joe understood every word he was saying.
Yeah, he did. I think he was talking. He was talking Joe's language.
I think he was. They were speaking at the same level. Yes.
And of course, there was a thing in California. Maybe this was the same thing over the weekend, where Joe got disoriented going off the stage, and they had to come and grab him, turn him around, and walk him off the stage. This is our president.
I have a question, Bill. Do you feel comfortable knowing that the nuclear codes and maybe the launch permission is in this man's hands?
Well, I established that I don't think there are codes per se, but I don't feel confident that he has any say in it at all. I don't feel confident that he's even making decisions. I think he is just there in name, and he's a puppet. But I do believe he was a crook all his life and career, and in his role as vice president. And I still think, senile or not, he needs to be held accountable, and we need to start getting busy and do the right thing.
Rob Schmidt had a psychologist on. Was it a psychologist? Someone who's very familiar with the type of problem that President Biden has. And he said, is there a possibility that he may wake up one day and say, launch the missiles, and all of a sudden we have a nuclear war? And she said, absolutely. It can be the drop of a hat. He can wake up delusional, and how do you stop him?
You don't, because if he says it to the right person, then that can go on down the line. And, when that comes down, you don't question those orders.
No.
You do it.
He is, he's still the guy who, when he gets on Marine One, the Marines still salute him as if he's the president.
Well, here's the one thought is we're going, but there's really no threat going on. I think we're still at DEFCON 3. But, back in January, we were talking about some of the Soviet fleet being deployed. There have been ships that by Russia, and I'm not going to argue, their Navy is sophisticated or it's not, but these ships have crew of the hypersonic missiles on them that have warheads, nuclear warheads.
Mm-hmm.
And, there was a sub that a couple of months ago that is off of our eastern seaboard from going by Hawaii back in January was a Soviet destroyer with nuclear capabilities and has the missiles coming to the West Coast. How many ships are deployed to key areas right now to strike us and basically anybody that we're aligned with, because
we're in the center of the target absolutely right now. Not that we haven't always been, but I think what you're saying is they've moved their weapons in closer, and it'll be a faster, easier attack on their part.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the Ukraine war has proven that some of their artillery and hardware is not up to snuff these days. Okay, I get that. But, in sheer number of troops out there, they win on that accord. And in the fact that they got nukes in hypersonic, we gave up on our hypersonic missile, the Arrow. Even though we had some successes with it, you still have failures. You've got to have failures to get to the perfection, and they were close, but they cut the funding right away. It stopped, so we don't have that. They have.
But I read that we actually do have hypersonic, and we've tested it, and it does work.
I read that too, but they're,
I don't think they tell us, Bill. I don't think they tell us. I think there's a lot of things that we have that we don't even know about. Some of them probably are things that have been misidentified as being UFOs. And speaking of UFOs...
here we go.
Tim Burchett, a representative in Congress right now, a man who's respected and an intelligent guy, he was being interviewed, and he happens to believe that the U.S. did cover up Roswell back in 1947. Listen.
I want to pivot here, and this also goes to the issue of transparency. You've been hot on the subject of UFOs for quite some time while you've been in Congress. Now, there's a chance that a so-called whistleblower could come to testify before Congress saying that the government is covering up the existence of extraterrestrials. You commented on this earlier this week. Do you believe there's a cover-up, sir?
I do, 100%. Since 1947, Roswell, you had military intelligence come out. The military said, we've recovered a saucer. And then the next day, they trot this poor officer out and he holds up a piece of a hot air balloon and says, no, in fact, it was a hot air balloon, which apparently was a top secret program at the time, and they never would have disclosed it anyway. Military intelligence is like congressional ethics. It just doesn't exist. And I know the man that they're talking about. He's a decorated veteran. That doesn't mean a lot in Washington, D.C., but dadgummit in Tennessee, it sure means a heck of a lot. And I look forward to having his testimony there and some other folks, too, and we will be having a hearing.
That's Tim Burchett from Tennessee, an interesting guy who obviously believes that we've been lied to about Roswell and other things, UFO,
And there are a lot of people. I mean, some people I would ask, they go, oh, no, there's no such things as UFOs, but I think the overwhelming majority of people believe, hey, look to the skies. You got to believe there's someone else out there that has been around a lot longer than we have. So, there have been strange things, and just about everybody has seen something at some time that's strange, whether it was a government program or something that was not from this earth.
Well, the sheer number of sightings alone, I mean, when you think about how many people have had, like you said, an experience of some kind. They've seen triangles in the sky or lights in the sky, or they've seen orbs outside airplane windows, which that happened. The government has always tried to explain it off. As a matter of fact, that's the modus operandi of the government on most everything that's unexplainable. I mean, even the Kennedy assassination, they wanted to wrap that thing up by the end of the weekend, and they did. The shooting happened. They found the guy. They brought him in. The guy got shot. It was Lee Harvey Oswald. Let's all move on and stop the investigation. And that they were satisfied with this. They wanted to keep the story out of the headlines, and they did. And I think that they've done this a lot. They can generate headlines. They can lie about headlines. They can tell you that Donald Trump is a thief and a bum and all this stuff, when actually the guy is a patriot. The guy has no reason to be in office. He's a billionaire. He doesn't need the money. He's one of the only politicians in the history of our country who just doesn't need the money. Everybody else goes into politics and makes money, and Trump goes into politics and loses money. Yet they try to make it sound like he's the bad guy. But the media can generate phony stories and headlines and keep him in the press, and they can take a guy like Biden, who is a traitor, who gave our secrets away and gave our influence away to our enemies. He did so easily, and the media can stand in front of him and protect him. It's keep them out of the headlines. Look at what happened the day that they found out that they had information on Hunter Biden. The story was blowing up. That's the day they decided quickly to indict Trump in Florida. I mean, the whole thing is so obvious to anybody who has their eyes open, but a lot of us don't. A lot of people, unfortunately, go day to day and they work their jobs. They're not interested in politics, and they don't want to talk about things that don't affect their life personally. At least, you know what I'm saying. As far as their own little world, they want to watch the Pirates or the Boston Red Sox or the Yankees or something like that. They don't want to get into things like politics. Anyway.
There's always a story that comes up that's a distraction, and sometimes these are stories. I'm not saying they're not newsworthy or demand attention. Like, well, there's one that's brewing out there right now, that little mini sub that goes down and looks at the Titanic, the Titan.
Yeah.
Well, they've lost contact with it and the captain. Now, what's okay, that's not unusual, but they are crushed for time. They're trying to find it desperately because there's people on board. And when you get in that sub, they seal the hatch, and they seal it from the outside with 17 different bolts. So there's no way out of that thing. So it's a coffin.
You have 96 hours.
And that's
96 hours.
So time is running out. So I already see the story coming here that there's either going to be a miraculous rescue, which I hope they find, because nobody deserves to go like that, or it's going to be tragic, but then they'll find him, and then they're going to dissect the sub and why it was done this way. And
the
why
cameras,
it was done that way.
They'll be doing live coverage. They'll have cameras out with the helicopters doing the searching. It will be wall to wall, this story. You're right.
Yeah, and they'll interview a friend of a friend of a friend who knew somebody that was related to somebody that was in the sub, because they want to keep that story going for as long as they can to cover up another major story that impacts you and everybody around you. And chances are it's going to be about Biden and the Biden family and Hunter, because that thing is boiling over. Yet the FBI they're sitting on documents that can finally put this thing to bed. But no, we can't do that. We got to find a way to make it go away. And that's what they do. They will take stories that are out there that used to be just little heartstring stories at the end of a newscast or little puff pieces, but now they get blown up in big time.
They have about 48 hours, about 2 days worth of air left right now, as of right at this moment.
There's still a chance, and there's still prayers to be said. And it's I hope they do find him, but I think that story, the timing, it is what it is.
What I don't understand, Bill, is that in this day of beacons and all that, you would have thought that there was some kind of a tracking system that was unbreakable and reliable, but apparently they can't find the darn thing.
No, they can't. And the sad thing is, as heart-wrenching as that story is, I think, the bigger story, one of the bigger stories out there besides the Biden, is that of the young lady. Where's she from? Virginia? Stacey?
No, she was from the Virgin Islands.
Virgin Islands, that's it. That's right. Anyway, she and she's on a committee, but
her name is I think it's Stacey Plaskett.
Plaskett,
yeah,
that's it. Mm-hmm. I can't read my own writing, so I'm looking at it and going, huh. And I get distracted by the noise, and I apologize for the noise that comes on and off behind me. It's been distracting to us.
Bill's doing his show from the dentist chair.
If my dentist makes noise like that, I got a real serious problem. You know what I mean?
I do.
They're going through the jaw and into the skull. But what I'm saying about her is what she said was reprehensible, and she should be yanked right away from the committee. I think she should be yanked from any office that she holds.
But you know what will happen, Bill? Like you just said. For the next day or so, it'll be this noise from this other story, and it'll be that her comments will disappear into the deep resources of old news stories, and you'll never hear from it again.
They haven't disappeared. What they're doing right now is defending, it was just a little Freudian slip. But they play the audio because what they're doing is planting the seed for someone to do their dirty work.
The good news is
they want to do.
The good news is we should end the show with this piece. We're just about at that point, but
all right.
People who were watching the indictment process happen made an astute observation that you won't find in the media, mainstream media. President Trump had a presidential motorcade. He didn't have a former president motorcade. He had 17 cars. He had, they said he had 2 white vehicles that had a SWAT-type team with him.
Yeah, I saw that.
And he had an ambulance behind him, which is it was a presidential motorcade to the indictment. This wasn't something that was standard.
And, he should get that, especially now. And now with that threat, he should really get that. But I got to ask you, if something bad like that happened,
how
would the media treat him? Would they have any respect for him, any remorse for what happened? Or would they sit there and go, ding dong, the Trump is gone, No,
this is an evil media. This is not the media that they portray themselves as, they kind of come out and say, we're the news, we're impartial, no, that's a lie. They're a propaganda arm of the left, period. End of sentence.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid what you just said would be the case.
I'm worried for him.
I am too.
I'm worried for our nation. I'm worried for you, friends, because whatever happens to him, just remember this. Whatever happens to him is going to basically be cast upon you. It's happening to all of us, is what I'm trying to say.
He has said many times, don't think for one second that they're coming after me. They're coming after you.
Yes.
I'm just standing in the way. And if he's not standing in the way anymore, if we don't have somebody like him being the challenger, the guy who's fighting for us, then we are really screwed. We really are. I mean, don't think for one second they won't destroy you. We talked yesterday, and we really have to wrap this up, but we talked about them raiding the gun shops around the country.
Oh, yeah.
And this is happening. There's no news about this. It's almost as if it's a normal thing that they're going in with body armor and seizing records and stuff like that. They're making it sound like it's normal. It's not normal.
Well, and I hear people defending them saying, well, like in the local case here, well, they've been under investigation for a long time. They've been coming in monthly. Well, now let me explain something about that. Them coming in. Now, I'll keep it short. Simple fact is, once upon a time, I worked in a place that sold guns and yada yada, and we had to do everything a gun shop did because we technically were with the pawn shop. I did that business in between radio jobs, but we were checked once a month. They do come in, and sometimes more. If they did hear somebody say, something, they'd come in and check. There was no wrongdoing, nothing ever, but they would also check our records. They do that routinely. So now they're just using that as an excuse.
So pulling a raid with armed personnel is anything but normal.
Is anything but normal, and they're doing that, but they're doing it under the cover. Well, we found all this. We got to come.
A lot of things that are happening in our world right now are not normal, friends. Are not normal at all. And I just pray I pray for our country every day, and I hope you do too. Hey, listen, we've done it. We've gone way over, but that's okay. It's been an interesting program. I'd like to thank Bill, and I'd also like to thank the sound effects guys in the background who were making the sound of the. They're quiet now, Bill. I say the show is over, so they haven't got anything to do anymore. They put their drills and saws down.
They're going to pack everything up and go home. It's like, well, we're done for the day. We screwed around with
what you heard in the background sounded like a concrete saw.
It was.
Yeah.
What they're doing is up and down the street, they're replacing all the sidewalks. Kind of a beautification thing that's going on, and which is nice, but it's kind of like, geez,
could you do this
now?
At another time, please? But anyway, hey, have a wonderful day, my friend. We are finished. Have a great day. Now you can go out and work with the guy out on the sidewalk. And maybe...
No, I'm not doing anything. As a matter of fact, I'm staying inside.
Good idea. We will do it again tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll have more to talk about.
All right, we will see you. But until then, hasta la vista.
The Voice of Freedom, CRN America. These days, when you want an answer about just about anything, you ask Alexa. You ask her about the weather. You ask her who won your favorite sporting event. You ask her to find a fact that you can't find anywhere. Well, we did that too. We asked her how many people have downloaded it'sanotherday.com. And this is what she said.
From acceleration.com. It has been downloaded as much as 260,433,467 times.
I know. Seems like a lot. Seems like a lot to us, too. But it's Alexa. Thanks for making us a part of your day. And tell your friends about it'sanotherday.com. We could use an extra listener. I mean, what do you do when you only have 260 million?